Hello everyone and welcome back to theCUBE's live coverage of Vast Forward 2026 here in Salt Lake City. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight, alongside Dave Vellante, my co-host and analyst. We are so excited to welcome to the show Renen Hallak, the founder and CEO of Vast. Welcome, Rennick.
Wrapping up a good day.
Indeed, a really good show, really good show. So you were on the main stage this morning, and you began with a Hebrew saying of you must know where you came from and know where you are going, and that is apropos because we're here at your first ever customer conference. Would you reflect a little bit on where Vast has been and where it's going, especially when you started it in 2016 at the same year OpenAI was founded and that Google bought DeepMind. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing in this moment now.
I think we've been building towards this moment for the last 10 years. It's hard, 10 years is a long time, but from the very beginning, we were always hopeful that AI will happen. It's happened a lot faster than we expected it to, and it's going to accelerate into the next decade. But that's what we live for. That's why we exist. We built a new software infrastructure layer for these new workloads, and the whole stack is getting redone, and we have our part in that stack that we're trying to do.
You said in your keynote, you're not like AI people, you're data people, something to that effect. But you know, we always talk about how we're in the early innings of AI, but in a way, we're not. I mean, you talked about 2016 and Google DeepMind and the neural networks and then transformer models. So when you saw all that happening, connect it to what you were thinking at the time. You were like, this is all going to need data? And the data plus AI was in your vision?
It's all going to need a lot of data because historically computers didn't understand any of this stuff, and now they can figure out pictures and genomes and sound and natural language, and so much larger amounts of information and much faster access. And much faster access just for training in order to build these models. And once you want to start inference, then it needs even faster access because you have trillions of agents eventually all needing to access all of this data in parallel. And it's not one hop inference, it's multi-hop for reasoning, and then it's reinforced learning across inference and training as we fine-tune these models, and each agent will fine-tune its own, and every one of those things is another exponent. And when you add 2, 3, 4, 5 exponents, then you realize the old stuff was not built for it. It won't be able to do it. You need a new architecture, you need a new system. And that's why we're becoming more relevant as we progress on this journey.
And by the way, thank you for commenting on my LinkedIn post. I wrote a post about Danny Hillis, who I met in 1986, who was the creator of the connection machine and thinking machines.
Yes.
And I remember at the time thinking, wow, this is like amazing stuff. And then what happened was the economics of microprocessors just wiped out that whole big iron industry. And now we're in a new moment. It's actually the economics, you know, the of GPUs and buy more and make more, Jensen's law, the cost per token declines. Yes. Those are all tailwinds for you. The exact opposite of what Danny Hillis focused or realized.
Extremely lucky in that we started when we did. If we were to start 2 years earlier, we wouldn't have been able to build this. If we were to start 2 years later, we would have been late to this generative AI wave that's hitting us now. And I think that's the difference. Danny Hillis and his team at Thinking Machines, they had the right ambition, they had the right target. They were very, very early. And I remember seeing an interview with him where he said they chose the name Thinking Machines because they wanted something they would never outgrow. And that's how I feel exactly. That's why this is our mission. We want to see it through, and I think we're at a point in history where maybe that's possible now.
So okay, so the OS for the thinking machine.
Yes.
When I think of great operating systems, I think of MVS. I think of, you know, DEC VMS, which nobody's ever heard of. But I think you're probably too young to even remember Digital Equipment Corporation, but they were a great operating system, and Unix and Linux. These are the operating systems. What do? They orchestrate resources. So that's a sort of traditional operating system. What is an AI operating system, and why Vast?
So why Vast? every one of the operating systems that we've had before was for a revolution, and a technological revolution that had a specific defining characteristic. You guys both have an Apple operating system in your desktop. That was compute-oriented. Internet was networking-oriented. AI is data. Data, especially as we move from training to everything else, data is at the core of enabling AI and making it work. And that's why VAST. What is the operating system? It's my analogy for that software infrastructure layer. We're not hardware people, we're not AI model people, but we want to provide that middle of the sandwich software infrastructure stack that includes storage, that includes database, that includes scheduling of jobs and orchestrating compute. It includes security, all of the parts that you need to make it simple, such that regular enterprises can start writing and using AI apps, to make it secure, such that they can comply with regulation. It's the software layer that makes a new technology widespread, and that's what we're trying to do for this next wave.
So you're making a very persuasive argument for why it needs to be, why it needs to exist. But what would you say to the skeptic that really is asking, but why VAST? I mean, couldn't a bigger, more established company, or shouldn't a bigger, more established company be the one to create this AI operating system?
Yeah, they should, but they don't know how. I think the answer to your second question is yes. The answer to your first question is I don't think so. And it's really interesting because we're competing with old companies. Young companies can usually innovate, but at relatively small scale. Old companies usually can't innovate anymore. They can't start from scratch. They're good at iterating on what they have, but that's basically it. And the reason is an economical reason. There's a trade-off between high growth and profitability in the business world. When you're young, you focus on growth, on innovation. Nobody cares if you're profitable. Once you get to a certain size, that's the only thing they care about. And then you have to start cutting costs, and R&D is the first thing that you cut. And then you don't have the engineers that know how to build new things, and then you can't build anything new, and it's a vicious cycle. Our advantage is that we broke that trade-off between very high growth. We've been tripling consistently year over year, as we're now in the very, very high numbers. I have a CFO now. She won't let me actually
Come on, wait, don't stop there, Renen.
But I will say that in parallel to tripling year over year, we are building a very efficient business, and we're above 90% gross margin. We've been free cash flow positive forever. We're generating more than $100 million a year. More than $100 million a quarter in cash now. And we're now profitable from a GAAP perspective as well. And so the fact that we can do both of those things means that we're of a certain size that can tackle very large problems, but we're still innovative, we're still hungry, we're still builders at heart, and that puts us in a unique position, not just based on what we've built over the last decade, but based on the culture and the model of our company to continue to innovate over the next decade as this AI era unravels.
So you mentioned culture, which I have to go
before
into.
you go there, I have to follow up
Okay,
on
okay.
the 90% gross margin. On the marginal economics of software are under attack right now. SaaS companies, we saw their gross margin go from 90% down to maybe mid-70s because of a cloud cost of goods sold.
Yep.
Now they're facing more challenges because they got to pay for tokens. You probably, as you become more, multi-cloud, super cloud, I would call it, maybe absorb some of those costs, I understand. But do you see the economics of your business as being sort of more durable and more attractive than some of the SaaS companies that are facing costs?
SaaS companies basically built the last generation of applications.
Right.
And so if I look at this stack, we're in a different layer of the stack, and we're in the new side, not the old side. And so we're building that software infrastructure layer for these new AI workloads. What the SaaS companies built is the old enterprise workloads. And I think there's fear that they are going to be disrupted by these new applications. When you have agentic workloads, when you have AI applications, they will overtake some of these older SaaS applications. Obviously, it's partially true.
And they
some
will, yes,
some won't.
absolutely, yeah.
But we're underneath the covers, and so we're building all of these new AI applications, all of these new AI models, all of these new AI workloads at scale are getting built on top of our infrastructure. And so we're riding that wave rather than getting disrupted by this
So
wave.
the operating system gets pulled along as those machines get smarter and smarter and smarter.
And as they get bigger and bigger and bigger. This is the biggest infrastructure deployment that we've ever seen, and you need the software to orchestrate all of it as it gets to that level of scale.
So you're not directly kind of attacking or disrupting some layer of the stack. It's the architectural change that you're a key component of that is disrupting the computing industry.
Everything is changing. Yeah. It's new power, it's new chips, it's new software, it's new applications, and we are that layer in the middle. I'll say that, well, two things. One, if you look at GPU attach rate, how many GPUs are we attached to? It's in the millions. And if you do the math, millions means it's almost all of them. Yeah. And so we are definitely riding that wave and hopefully contributing to the speed at which GPUs can be deployed. Second thing I will say is if you look at just amount of capacity, we are today, or this year for sure, going to be the biggest in terms of data under management, and we're tripling year over year. And so AI is driving the workloads towards us.
Let's talk culture.
Okay, we have to, because it's something you talked about on the main stage this morning, and this great company that is always there for its customers and its employees. Yes. You talked a little bit about your mission, always trying to learn new things. We follow principles, not rules. We have unreasonably high expectations.
Me personally, yes.
Yes, but I imagine that filters through the organization too. I mean, if the boss has unreasonably high expectations. So how do you maintain this, particularly as you are getting bigger? And I know that you talked about how you have not made sacrifices to be able to be independent in this way, but you also said big companies don't have as much leeway to innovate, to devote the time and resources to innovate. So how do you make sure that you are maintaining that kind of culture with the people that you hire and how you approach the work?
I think large companies aren't measured in headcount, they're measured in mindset. And we never want to be a large company. We never want these hierarchy and levels and command chain and chain of command and all of these things that came from military organizations. They don't have any room here at VAST. We're a flat organization. We don't have a hierarchy. I tell people, the customer's at the top, the team supporting the customers right underneath, and everybody else is supporting them, including myself. We need a certain type of person that loves challenges, that can't wait for that impossible task so that they can prove to the world that we can do it even though everybody else thinks that we can't. The interview process definitely tries to filter out the people who won't be a good fit, but the ones that are end up getting a little bit addicted to this cycle of the way that we operate, the speed that we operate, the intensity that we operate. It's very different than other places. And what you said about following principles, not rules, I think, well, A, we hate rules, and so I tell everybody, just do what makes sense for the customer, do what makes sense for the company long term. Don't try to copy anybody else. And when we find those principles, they lead us in a direction that ends up being very different than the way other companies are built. And what that means is that anyone who's been here for a few years ends up not being able to work anywhere else.
So, okay, so you're cash flow positive. Let's say hypothetically someday IPOs in your future. How do you maintain that independence as a public company? I mean, you're certainly doing things differently. You're growing like crazy and you're profitable. That's kind of unheard of at this stage. Do you worry about your ability to maintain that sort of independent mindset if and when you go public?
I do, and that's part of the reason that we're not public yet. We hired Amy, our first CFO, about 2 years ago, and when she joined, what I asked her to do is to make sure that we can go public without feeling it, without changing the way we operate, without needing to stop focusing on customers and innovation. And so that process takes a while. And we've been preparing for the last 2 years, and we probably have another 12 months of preparation in front of us to be at that point where we can say, yes, we can now be a public company without it affecting everything else that we love about Vast, and without having all of the great people here want to stop being part of this company. And that's why we're doing it relatively slowly and in a thoughtful way.
It's a rare thing that a leader of a company can stare Wall Street back in the eyes and say, no, we're doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff Bezos did it, but you know, he said, damn the torpedoes. And there was a CEO of Seagate back in the day, Al Shugart, disk drive company. He didn't really care. I mean, he cared about Wall Street, but he wouldn't, you know, he wouldn't sacrifice the customer or the strategy to satisfy, you know, a quarter.
I'll tell you, we at Vast, we're all shareholders. Our employee base, we're shareholders in the company. And I think if we focus on making our customers happy, then the company succeeds, our employees are happy, and the side effect of that is that investors will make a lot of money. That's been true for the last 10 years. I think if we continue operating in the way that we have, it will be true for the next 10 years. Whether we have private investors or public investors, they should be happy.
It sounds so simple, and I guess it is, but it never works in a frictionless way. So in the last 10 years, you know, looking back, I mean, what you have done is very hard. You said in your keynote, we knew the probability of success was very low.
Yes.
And it was. I mean, it's amazing.
And we haven't succeeded yet, so
well, you're
still out there.
But you've achieved a level of success that you probably didn't even envision early on. Maybe you did.
I don't know how any of this happened.
Yeah, right. So, as I say, it's never frictionless. So, were there points which you were saying, okay, this is not going to work, or we have to change our strategy, we have to maybe sacrifice our principles? You didn't, but how did you get through those challenges?
There wasn't a point like that.
Yep.
We never thought this wasn't going to work. We always think somebody's going to shoot us. We need to understand where it's going to come from, and we need to protect against that. Sometimes we're able to protect against it before it happens. Sometimes it happens and we fall down and we need to get back up, but we never give up. We do whatever it takes to succeed because we know how fragile this is. If you tip it a little bit in this direction, you get a virtuous cycle. If you tip it a little bit in the other direction, it goes in the other direction. And so every little thing as we build this company, we need to succeed in. We need to win. We can't lose, even if it's a tiny little thing. And I was giving not today's keynote that was public, but the private one that we did 2 days ago just for our team. And it was one example after another of how being relentless and not giving up and doing whatever it takes to succeed is the way that we've gotten here.
But also being intentional, because as you said, one way is vicious, one way is virtuous. So
can you share an example where maybe a different mindset or a different leader might have capitulated, where you said, no, I'm going to stick to the principles and power through it?
I'll give you an example from 3 days ago. I was supposed to fly in on Monday morning. All the flights got canceled from New York because of the storm. And so I rescheduled for Sunday night, and I was on the plane, and we de-iced, and we went to the runway, and there was ice on the wings. We went back to the gate. We de-iced, we went to the runway, there was ice on the wings. And after 4 hours, it's 10 p.m., the storm is too hard. The pilot said, we can't take off. Everybody's off the plane, there aren't any trains, there aren't any Ubers, there's a travel ban, you're not allowed to drive. 299 people out of the 300 that were on that plane found a way to sleep at the airport, found a hotel room. One person went and rented a car and started to drive west towards Pittsburgh to get on a plane at 5 a.m. in the morning so that I could be here on Monday.
One maniac did that.
Yeah. Not a sane person. but you have to do whatever it
That
takes.
sounds like something I would do.
I know. He's in a pod. Maybe he should do that interview process.
I'm trying to compare.
That's why
but
you're successful.
I would do something that's crazy. You got, especially for this. I mean, you have to be here, right?
I have to.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
There's no other place I could be.
But that's wow. You and talk about luck. You're lucky that
Yeah.
that
I didn't die.
that Pittsburgh was flying.
Well, if Pittsburgh wasn't flying, I would have driven to Chicago.
Right, keep going
And if
west,
that didn't
right.
work, it's only 30 hours to
Yeah.
drive all the way to Salt Lake
Right,
City. So
a couple
Go
of
west, young
espressos
man.
and you're good.
All right, I like it. Well, Renen, this was such a fun conversation. I really enjoyed meeting you. Thank you so much, and congratulations on this conference.
Yeah, and your success.
Yeah.
But even though you say it's not success.
hopefully one day.
I'm Rebecca Knight for Dave Vellante. Thank you so much for tuning in to theCUBE's live coverage of Fast Forward presented by Solidigm. We will catch you next time. You've been watching theCUBE, the leader in enterprise tech news and analysis.